How's it going? I'm Ryan. Today I'm going to go over the one trade that I took on ES. I took some puts kind of in the opening 15 minutes or so. Got a decent win. That's the only trade I took all day. We'll take a look at that in just a second. But for now, we're looking at the daily time frame here. You can see that the uptrend continues. It's a continuing series of higher highs, higher lows. I want to take a look at the 1 hour time frame and just take a look at what I was watching. So from the top down, we have the all-time high, just a zone that we rejected off of. We also have this channel that we were trading in from the past Thursday and Friday, and then through the pre-market and after hours as well. So marked kind of the lower and upper range of that. We had pre-market high, pre-market low, and then we had Friday's high and Friday's low, represented by these green and red levels, as well as to the upside, kind of this level around like 5,300 or so that acted as support a few times and then resistance once we broke below it. Some other stuff to the downside didn't really get down there, so don't necessarily feel the need to go over those quite yet. So what was my strategy coming into the day? So last week I was finding myself getting caught up in smaller time frames, so really cleaned up my chart, looked at some of these levels on a higher time frame, noticed immediately that ES was forming in this channel, had been respecting it pretty well. We got that breakout in the pre-market, and so game plan, as everything has been kind of moving down, QQQ as well, that with this break of the support that we've been holding for past couple days, looking for that retest and potential continuation down to that pre-market low. So that was the original game plan. We can take a look at NQ as well, and I was watching something similar, right? So NQ is pulling back the past 2 days, making lower highs, continued to make a lower high and a lower low. So past few days have been pulling back, still overall in an uptrend, but in the reference of the past few trading days, moving down. So we had this big support here that was the previous all-time high that last Friday we pulled back and bounced really heavily from. In the pre-market we broke below. So on NQ I was watching for a retest, potential continuation to the downside. Didn't take that because NQ was really strong, but just kind of overall general market sentiment, that's what I was looking at as we were coming into the day. So let's go back to ES, take a look at what I traded. So I do want to call this out because actually a better move came in the pre-market here. So this happened, 4:30 a.m. my time, so it certainly didn't catch this. But this is more so an excellent trade off this. You get that break, that retest, failure to claim that on multiple 5-minute candles, and then that continuation. So that was a really nice trade. So this kind of happened in the pre-market. That's essentially what I wanted to see here. So what trade did I take? In the morning, started off pretty strong, broke up above that trend line, immediately closed below it. And once we were retesting here, this is where I got in puts. So once we retested, I got a shorted ES or MES, so the micro contract. I was targeting pre-market low. You can see we did not get down there. I ended up trimming somewhere down in here around the previous low a day, and I will show you why. So this is what it looked like on the 1 minute as well. You can see we broke up, definitely facing some resistance around that like a 5282 level, wicking off that, failing to get any higher. And then we had this strong bearish engulfing break below, and then the retest, and I got in puts on this candle. So got the 5-minute close below, got that strong 1 minute rejection after failing to push higher, and gave me the confidence to get in here. So got in. I got out somewhere in here, one of these two candles. The reason being is we were failing to make new lows, and then we had these long wicks, as well as you can see the volume was high across these, right? Especially if you compare, to this volume in here. off the open, volume's always pretty much highest off the open. Got a really high break, so that was excellent. You know, once we got that rejection, big volume spike, big move down. But we did also get a pretty significant wick on this candle. And then as volume remained elevated here, we see these candle bodies get quite a bit smaller, and we see these long lower wicks remaining, as well as we have this low here. Once we broke the opening low, we have this new low of day. And we kind of wicked below it temporarily here, but you can see that with this higher volume, we're not getting follow through. Similar to kind of what you're seeing up here, right? If you can imagine, for example, if this volume was really high, but these weren't making any moves up, if that move to the upside wasn't continued, and the candle bodies are much smaller than the move that brought us up here, it looks like momentum's dying, right? So same idea here. Big volume, big move into this area. Volume remains elevated, and we have these long lower wicks showing that there are buyers, and kind of a failure to continue this move downwards. So I got out in here. I only had one contract. So, you know, typically where I would trim my first contract, or where my first trim would be if I was trading this with more contracts, would be at that low a day, right? You trim at low a day, breaks low a day, you target the next level to the downside, which would be this pre-market low. So once we started wicking around on here, like I said, took my contract off the market for a decent gain. Where was my stop? So my stop was, I entered around here. My stop was about 5282. So about a 2-point risk. And I was targeting 5272. So about, you know, about a 8.5 or 7.5 gain. So about 2 point to 7.5 or 7, we'll say, risk to reward. Obviously, I didn't get that full reward. Mine was a little bit closer to like a 2-to-1. I was risking about $10, made 16. I was up, you know, a little over 20 at the very bottom here, but I didn't time it to hit this obviously perfect. Once we started bouncing is where I got out. So could have been a little bit closer to a 2-to-1, ended up being like a 1.6-to-1. Not bad. Obviously, I would have liked to see that continuation down to my initial target here. But overall, decent little trade. You can take a look at the rest of the day, though. I do want to look at that, and I want to also look at NQ as well, because there's a nice trade on NQ. The rest of the day, I wasn't really interested in this. A lot of this was kind of choppy, very low volume. We had a super low volume day on ES in general. One of the lower volume days that we've had in recent history. If you look at the volume here, there's not many days that really, I mean, since December, really. So really low volume, super small candle on the daily time frame. So ES was meh, not the greatest. I do want to look at this channel that we have reclaimed and we're in again after kind of briefly falling below it. So it came up and retested yesterday's low, or not yesterday, Friday's low, rejected, held that bottom of that channel right at the end of the day, and we're trending up from that point in the after hours. So we'll see if we break to the upside or kind of remain bouncing around in that channel. Like I said, in the morning, not a ton of trades that I liked on ES aside from this. That was kind of my original game plan. Didn't get the full scope of that trade though. NQ moved a bit better. NQ, I feel like just in general moves better. So like I said on NQ, I was watching for the retest of this like 18,500 level for potential rejection and continuation downwards. However, I did not take that when we approached up here because we were strong. We had this initial dip, looked really strong out of that, formed like a bit of a bull flag here, broke out to that. As we came into the zone, just we're looking really bullish coming into this area. So no intention to short at this point. Blew right through it. We started to consolidate, and one thing that I was looking for was the break of this consolidation. If we could hold this zone and then break out of that resistance that we had and look for a target of kind of this like 18,540 or, you know, the day's high, which picked off right there. So this is something I was watching for. I did not take this trade, but what I really wanted to see was a breakout and then a retest and then continuation. We got that breakout and just kind of made that move upwards without the retest. So that's why I did not get in. I'd always prefer a break and retest. Kind of as we saw in that trade that I did take on ES, right? It broke, it pushed up and retested that and then dropped. So take a look at the 1 minute, because this was a really nice setup. And you could have taken the retest and hold of Friday's low, especially looking at, bear with me for a second, we're gonna look at last Friday's price action, especially when you look at the reaction that we got out of that level both times that we came down there. Big move to the upside, came down, didn't quite hit that same level, but big move to the upside again. So taking that hold, you know, taking a long position on the hold of that, especially after we get that hold on the 5 minute, wouldn't have been a bad idea. So after this candle, you know, you could have entered on this candle, had a pretty tight stop, would have been a pretty good risk reward. The reason why I did not take that is because we were making lower highs and we were kind of consolidating. We also had the 9 EMA. We were below the 9 EMA here at this point, just below it. So not that I've kind of reversed my stance on only taking longs above the 9 EMA, only taking shorts below it. I think in a trending market, that's a good thing to do. But once you start to get maybe some of this consolidation, that EMA catches up, it's not always perfect. So price action and volume is more important in that situation. But I did not take this long here because we were still making these lower highs, and you can see kind of this compression of price action before we get that break and that expansion upwards to eventually hit new highs on the day. This was a really nice move. Like I said, once we got that break, we didn't come down and retest, not even on the 1 minute. We opened slightly above it and then just went from there. So didn't kind of, you know, obviously I would have liked the retest because that's how I base my risk to reward. I really like to see that retest. You know, if we get that retest, then you have an entry closer to where I'd want to stop out. I'd want to stop out if we broke below this like 18,500 level. So entering up in here, that would have given me quite a bit of risk for, you know, that potential reward, about a 1-to-1. So didn't enter there, but that was a really nice trade that I was watching that played out and just, you know, didn't really fit my criteria for entering that. Like I said, NQ moved a little bit cleaner. ES was a little bit choppier, but that's the only trade I took on the day. It was that put within the first 15 minutes of the day on ES. Kind of sat around and watched for the rest of the day. There wasn't really much else besides that NQ trade that interested me. Happy though, happy because past week I found myself getting into the too much of the nitty gritty on the smaller time frames. Smaller time frames are important, but I'm really trying to base my trades off of higher time frame levels, higher time frame patterns, and then get my entries and exits based off those lower time frames. So was happier with my execution in the one trade that I did take today. Obviously with this break below this channel, I kind of expected more downside, but it doesn't always work out exactly as you expect it. And we can even look and see, yeah, I suppose this kind of, we didn't really have much to go off of here because we just had this big move up from last Wednesday. So not a lot of levels in this price action to determine this level that we bounced off of. That's all I got. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much. I do trade live Monday through Friday. I'll be here all week trading. We'll look to continue this green streak. It's a good start to the week. Good start, especially from last week, kind of clearing things up, approaching it with a new kind of focus. So appreciate you watching. That's all I got for you. Have a great day. Peace.